The house was too quiet. No texts. No calls. No reminders. Just silence. My wife had left for her corporate retreat, 4 days away in Aspen. She barely said goodbye when she walked out the door, dragging her carry-on like she couldn't wait to escape. I didn't blame her. We hadn't been close in months. I made myself coffee, sat at the kitchen island, and stared out the window. That's when I heard the soft footsteps, bare feet on tile. I turned. There stood Jesse, my 20-year-old stepson, fresh out of the shower, towel wrapped dangerously low, steam still rising off his skin. "Morning," he said with a sleepy grin. "I made you something." He placed a plate in front of me, scrambled eggs, toast, and perfectly sliced avocado. I blinked. Jesse had never made me breakfast. Hell, Jesse barely spoke more than 3 words to me at once before. And now he was, standing so close. Smelling like citrus and cedar. Looking at me like I wasn't just some guy married to his mom. Then he said it. Figured since it's just the 2 of us, we could enjoy some real time together. I didn't know what he meant. Not yet. But by the end of those 4 days, everything would change. My name is David, and I'm 38 years old. I work as a construction manager, steady job, decent house, quiet life. The kind of man who fixes leaking pipes on weekends, pays bills on time, and doesn't rock the boat. My wife, Claire, is a corporate attorney. Brilliant. Driven. And lately, distant. When we first met, I was drawn to her ambition. The way she carried herself, fierce and untouchable. But over the years, that fire that made her irresistible also made her unreachable. 7 years of marriage turned us from lovers into something colder, polite cohabitants. We slept in the same bed, ate at the same table, but lived in separate worlds. Jesse, her son from her first marriage, was 13 when I entered their lives. Back then, he was quiet and guarded, always walking around with headphones and hoodies. I never tried to play dad, I figured he didn't want one. I just made sure he had what he needed, stayed out of his way, and hoped one day he'd let me in. Years passed. Jesse grew up. He's 20 now, in college, taller than me, sharp jawline, light hazel eyes like his mother's. But unlike Claire, he's warm, present. He'd only recently moved back home for the summer after finishing sophomore year. We hadn't talked much. Until now. That morning when he brought me breakfast, it felt out of place. Too kind. Too intentional. "Thought I'd do something nice," he said, watching me with this unreadable expression. I mumbled thanks, awkward as ever. But the way he stood there, leaning against the counter, arms folded, his eyes not leaving mine, made something stir inside me I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't just that he was handsome. It was the attention. The warmth. The intimacy I hadn't tasted in years. And I hated myself for noticing it. That night, after dinner, we watched a movie, something light. Claire never watched TV with me anymore. She said it was a waste of time. But Jesse sat beside me, close. Too close. Our shoulders brushed. I tried to focus on the screen, but I could feel his presence. Every breath. Every glance. Halfway through the movie, he turned to me. "Do you like living with Mom?" The question caught me off guard. "She's busy," I replied, cautiously. He gave a half smile. "She's always been that way. Even with me." I didn't say anything. Then he added, "Sometimes I wonder if you're really happy." I turned to him. Our eyes locked. And for a second, I forgot how wrong it all felt. I just felt seen. "I don't know," I finally said. "Some days are quiet. Too quiet." Jesse nodded like he understood exactly what I meant. And I knew something unspoken had passed between us, a thread, a current, a shift. It terrified me. Because for the first time in years, someone looked at me not with indifference, but with something dangerously close to care. And that someone was my stepson. The next morning, I woke up later than usual. The house was quiet again, but not in the same cold, isolating way. There was something hanging in the air, something warm, electric, maybe even dangerous. Jesse had already made coffee. The aroma drifted from the kitchen into the hallway, and for a second, I hesitated before walking in. He was standing at the sink, shirtless, wearing loose gray joggers that hung low on his hips. His back was to me, but he must have heard me because he glanced over his shoulder and smiled. "Morning," he said casually, as if we'd always been this, comfortable. I muttered a greeting and poured myself some coffee, trying to act normal. But nothing about this felt normal. Not the way he leaned in when he handed me the sugar. Not the way his fingers lingered near mine on the countertop. Not the way he sat across from me, knees almost touching, eyes steady and unreadable. You didn't sleep well, he said. How do you know? I heard you tossing, he shrugged, sipping his coffee. You always do that when you're stressed. It caught me off guard. I didn't realize he noticed things like that. I chuckled nervously. You always been that observant? Only with people I care about, he said. His tone was light, but his eyes didn't waver. I looked away. Later that afternoon, we ended up doing chores together. It was supposed to be simple, mowing the lawn, fixing the light in the garage, that sort of thing. But every moment was loaded. The way he handed me tools. The way his fingers brushed mine again and again. The way he stood just a little too close when we both reached for the same drawer. At one point, we were crouched down fixing a loose hinge on the basement door. I turned, not realizing how near he was. Our faces were inches apart. Neither of us moved. His breath hitched. Mine stopped entirely. Then I blinked and backed away, heart thudding like a war drum. I'll get the drill, I muttered and rushed upstairs. I needed space. I needed clarity. But clarity never came. That night, I tried to focus on a book. Jesse walked past the living room twice before finally coming in and flopping on the couch next to me. Boring book, he asked. Trying to focus, I mumbled, not looking up. You're always trying, he said under his breath. What does that mean? Nothing. Just, you try to keep yourself busy so you don't feel things. I closed the book. He wasn't wrong. Is that so bad? I asked, finally facing him. No. It's just sad. His voice was quiet. Almost like he regretted saying it. I didn't mean to. It's okay, I said, cutting him off. Maybe I need to hear it. There was a pause. Long, heavy. Then, out of nowhere, he said, I used to resent you. My chest tightened. I know. But not because of who you are. Because I thought you didn't want to know me. That you were just another man passing through Mom's life. I swallowed hard. I wasn't sure I was allowed to know you, I said. You always kept a wall up. I was scared, he whispered. Of being rejected. Again. His voice cracked. And suddenly, I didn't see the confident, grown man sitting next to me. I saw a boy, bruised, lonely, craving something he never got. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. He nodded. It's okay. You're here now. Then he did something that threw me completely off balance. He leaned his head on my shoulder. Just, gently, like he'd been waiting years to do it. I froze. Every muscle in my body tensed. My heart pounded. I didn't know whether to pull away or stay perfectly still. But I didn't move. Because for the first time in what felt like ages, I felt warm. Connected. Wanted. And I hated that it felt so good. When he finally sat back up, he looked at me with soft eyes. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I lied. Good. I like this version of you. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know what version of me he was talking about. And I was afraid. I liked that version too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning the conversation over in my mind. Replaying every word, every glance, every moment of accidental closeness. Was I imagining it all? Was Jesse just being kind? Or was there something else here? Something we weren't supposed to feel, but couldn't stop ourselves from feeling? I stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. But by morning, one thing was certain. The line between right and wrong was already starting to blur. I told myself it was nothing. Just kindness. Just comfort. But deep down, I already knew this wasn't going to stop. It was Sunday evening when the rain came down hard. Thunder rolled across the neighborhood, and the lights in the living room flickered once, then went out entirely. Jesse was in the kitchen when it happened. He called out, "You good?" I grabbed the flashlight from the side drawer. Yeah, power's out. Probably a transformer again. He walked over holding a couple of candles and a lighter. Romantic, he joked, eyebrows raised. I chuckled awkwardly, trying not to let my nerves show. You always this cheerful in the dark? I like it, he said. It makes people drop their masks. We lit the candles and sat on the couch, the flickering flames casting soft shadows across his face. It was quiet, save for the tapping of rain against the windows. Jesse broke the silence. Do you miss her? I blinked. Your mom? He nodded. I guess. I miss what we were supposed to be. What we never became. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then, I think I knew. Even when I was younger. Knew what? That you weren't really hers. Not the way she wanted. But, you tried. And I saw that. I stared at the candle's flame, the light dancing like my thoughts. He shifted slightly, closer. You were the only man who never hurt her. Or me. That meant something. I swallowed hard, my chest tightening. I didn't think I meant anything to you back then. You did. You still do. His voice cracked slightly. Vulnerability hung between us like thick fog. I could feel his presence beside me, the warmth of his body, the steadiness of his breath. The silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt loaded. I used to be afraid of you, he said suddenly. I looked at him, startled. Why? Because you were kind. And I didn't know how to handle that. Every other man either ignored me or barked orders. You listened. I shifted, unsure of where this conversation was heading, or how I was supposed to respond. I don't want to confuse you, he added. But I also don't want to pretend I don't feel what I feel. He looked straight into my eyes. And then, slowly, carefully, he reached out and placed his hand over mine. I froze. His fingers were warm, steady. Not demanding. Not afraid. Just there. I could have pulled away. I should have. But I didn't. Because in that moment, it wasn't about right or wrong. It wasn't about roles or rules. It was about two people, lost, bruised, and quietly aching, finding a kind of comfort they hadn't known in years. I let my fingers curl slightly beneath his. We sat like that for minutes, maybe more, neither of us speaking, the storm raging outside, the silence between us deafening in a different way now. He broke it. You don't have to say anything, he whispered. I just wanted you to know. I looked down at our hands, then up at him. You think this is okay? I asked, voice barely audible. No, he admitted. But it feels real. I nodded. It does. He leaned his head against my shoulder again, slower this time, like he was asking permission with the movement. I didn't move. I let him stay there. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was failing someone. I felt seen. Cared for. Not alone. Eventually, I spoke again. You deserve something better than this, than me. He pulled away slightly, meeting my gaze. You don't get to decide what I deserve. Maybe I deserve to feel safe. To feel chosen. And maybe you do too. His words landed like a punch and a bomb all at once. He squeezed my hand. I'm not trying to break anything. I just don't want to keep pretending this connection isn't there. We sat in silence again. But this time, there was peace in it. Like we both finally admitted something we'd been burying for too long. Eventually, the power returned. The lights blinked on, breaking the stillness. We let go of each other's hands, reluctantly. He stood up and stretched. Guess we should get some sleep. I nodded. As he started walking toward the stairs, he turned back. Thanks for not letting go. I couldn't speak. I just nodded again. When I went to bed that night, the feeling of his hand in mine stayed with me like a ghost. A haunting I didn't want to chase away. I knew things couldn't go back to the way they were. Not after that night. Not after his hand found mine, and I let it stay there. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the heaviness in the air lingered like fog that refused to lift. I came downstairs to find Jesse already at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone, pretending not to notice me. The candles from last night still sat on the table, burnt down, wax hardened. Just like the moment we shared, sealed in silence. Morning, I said, trying to sound casual. He nodded. Morning. That was it. No joke, no sarcasm, no spark. Just distance. I poured coffee. Every small sound, the drip of the pot, the scrape of the chair legs, sounded louder than usual. Got any plans today? I asked. Heading out to meet a friend, he said, still not looking up. I nodded. Cool. We didn't speak much after that. And I couldn't decide if it was tension, or if we were both trying to protect something unspoken. The rest of the day passed in fragments. I busied myself with chores I didn't need to do, tightening screws, wiping countertops already clean, checking emails I had no intention of answering. That evening, he came home later than usual. I heard the front door open and close, his footsteps light across the floor, the creak of stairs under his feet. He didn't come into the living room. Didn't say goodnight. And I didn't go after him. The days that followed mirrored that same strange rhythm. Jesse avoided lingering in rooms with me. No more casual brushes of the shoulder. No more teasing jokes. Just quick, shallow exchanges, like strangers who used to be something more but now weren't sure how to be anything at all. One night, I heard his voice in the hallway, low and quiet, talking on the phone. I couldn't hear the words, but I heard the laughter, and it wasn't for me. And it stung in a way I wasn't prepared for. I realized something then. I missed him. I missed his presence. His laughter. His gaze. That scared me more than anything. Because whatever that moment was we shared in the dark, it had cracked something open inside me. And now, in the cold light of day, I didn't know how to close it. The next weekend, Claire called. Her voice was rushed, professional. Flights delayed. Might be stuck another 2 days. Keep an eye on Jesse. I almost laughed. She still thought Jesse needed watching. If only she knew. That night, I found him outside on the porch. The sky was clear, stars scattered like distant thoughts. Mind if I sit? I asked. He shrugged. It's your house. I sat beside him, the silence stretching between us like a taut wire. Finally, I said, we haven't really talked about that night. He let out a small, humorless laugh. What's there to talk about? You tell me. He looked straight ahead. It was a mistake, right? I didn't answer immediately. Because I wasn't sure. I don't know, I admitted. He finally turned to look at me. Well, if you don't know, then what am I supposed to think? I've never felt something like that before, I said. But I don't know what it means. Or what to do with it. He nodded slowly, biting the inside of his cheek. I thought maybe it meant something to you. It did, I said. It does. Then why are you pulling away? Because you're Jesse, I said. My stepson. That didn't seem to matter that night. His words weren't accusatory. Just honest. And that honesty hit like a blade. He stood up. Look, I get it. You're scared. I am too. But pretending nothing happened won't make it disappear. He turned to go inside but stopped in the doorway. You don't have to love me back. But don't pretend like that night didn't matter. The door closed behind him, and I was left alone beneath a sky full of stars, wondering how something so brief could unravel so much. I thought distance would make things easier, but it only made the silence between us louder. And in that silence, I realized something had changed. Forever. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. Every creak of the floor, every rustle of the curtains in the hallway, reminded me that Jesse was here, and yet, he felt a million miles away. We passed each other like ghosts, polite smiles, stiff nods, meaningless small talk that echoed hollow through the space we once filled with laughter. I told myself I was being mature, responsible, that putting space between us was the right thing. But inside, it felt like slow suffocation. Then came Tuesday night. I was in the living room, nursing a glass of wine I didn't even want. The news played on low volume. Another distraction I didn't care about. That's when I heard the knock. Soft. Barely a tap. I turned and found Jesse in the doorway, eyes unsure, arms crossed tight like he was holding himself together. Can we talk? He asked. I muted the TV and nodded. Of course. He sat down at the far edge of the couch, the same couch where we used to sit close without thinking. Now, even the cushions felt like boundaries. I've been thinking, he began. About everything. I stayed quiet. Let him speak. I get it, he said. I really do. This, whatever it was, it's confusing. And wrong by some standards. Maybe even most. But it didn't feel wrong to me. It felt real. I swallowed hard. He looked at me, eyes softer now. And I think you felt it too. You just don't know what to do with it. I nodded slowly. You're right. His eyebrows raised, surprised I admitted it. I've been terrified, I said. Not just of what people would think, but of what it means about me, about everything I thought I knew. He leaned closer, not physically, but emotionally, the wall between us cracking. I don't want to hurt you, Jesse, I said. And I don't want to lead you on. But I can't lie either. That night, it changed something in me. A long pause. I don't know where this goes, I continued, but I don't want to lose you. Not like this. Not in silence. His eyes glistened. Not with tears, not quite, but with something deeper. A fragile hope. I never asked for anything from you, he whispered. Just honesty. That's all I wanted. I reached out, slowly, cautiously, and placed my hand on his. He didn't flinch. This time, he held it back. That single touch didn't solve everything. But in that moment, something shifted. The fear didn't vanish, but it stopped leading the way. That night, the silence in the house wasn't uncomfortable anymore, it was intimate. Like the kind that fills the space between two people who finally understand each other. We sat there, still holding hands, fingers interlaced in a way that felt fragile but real. Jesse shifted closer on the couch, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. You know, he said, I used to think you didn't like me when you first moved in. I turned to him. What made you think that? You were always polite. Distant. I thought you were just tolerating me because of Mom. I shook my head, regret lacing every word. No. I was terrified I'd mess it up. You were already a teenager, and I didn't want to force myself into your life. So I stayed quiet, thinking I was doing the right thing. He nodded slowly, biting the inside of his cheek like he was debating saying something deeper. And then, when I got older, Jesse continued, I started seeing you. Like really seeing you. You weren't just Mom's husband. You were the man who helped me fix my bike, who stayed up late explaining taxes to me, who always made sure the lights in my room were fixed before school started. And every time you did something like that, I felt safe. I swallowed, throat tight. I never knew that. Well, he said, smiling softly, I never told you. The air between us shifted again, like gravity had tilted slightly. Jesse leaned his head against my shoulder, tentative, as if still unsure whether he was allowed to. But I didn't move away. My hand naturally settled over his, anchoring him there. I always thought I was straight, I murmured. Claire was the only person I ever really opened up to. I built this life around the version of me I thought I had to be. Jesse looked up. And now? I don't know what this makes me, I admitted. But I know how I feel when I'm around you. And I've never felt that with anyone else, not even her. He looked stunned for a second, like he hadn't expected me to say it out loud. And honestly, neither had I. I've been so scared, I added, voice barely above a whisper. Not just of you. Of myself. Of what this means. But more than that, I've been scared of pushing you away. Jesse pulled away just enough to face me fully. You're not pushing me away now. I'm trying not to. There was a pause. His eyes searched mine. Then he leaned in, just a little. He was waiting. Not assuming. Not forcing. Just waiting. And I made the choice. I closed the distance. Our lips met gently, not with hunger, but with something even more terrifying, trust. It lasted only a moment, but it held the weight of years. The unspoken words. The late-night tension. The subtle glances across dinner tables. When we pulled away, Jesse's eyes were glossy. I didn't expect that. I didn't either, I said. But I'm done pretending I don't feel it. He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for months. Does this change everything? He asked. I nodded slowly. Yes, and maybe that's okay. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was living someone else's life. I didn't feel like a man hiding in the shadows of his own home. I felt honest. Jesse rested his forehead against mine. I'm scared too, he whispered. But I'm not walking away from this. Neither was I. We sat there, hearts thudding in sync, the room spinning quietly around us. The fear was still there, but it wasn't running the show anymore. That night, I didn't go to the guest room. That night, for the first time since Claire left, the bed wasn't cold. Mornings felt different after that night. Not louder. Not brighter. But calmer. Like something had settled in me that had been restless for years. Jesse was already in the kitchen when I walked in, barefoot, hair messy, 2 mugs of coffee already on the table. One had my name on it. Literally. It was the #OneStepdad mug Claire had bought as a joke 4 Christmases ago. He handed it to me, smirking. Seemed appropriate. I chuckled softly, sitting across from him. Still feels weird. I know, he said, looking into his cup. But weird doesn't mean wrong. There was a pause. The kind that no longer felt awkward. Claire comes back Friday, I said carefully. We should probably talk about that. Jesse nodded. We don't owe her explanations, but we owe her honesty. That hit me. I hadn't thought of it that way. He continued, I'm not asking you to destroy your life for me. But I won't let you keep pretending, either. Not if it means losing yourself again. I'm not pretending anymore, I told him. That part of me, David, the husband, the stepdad, the silent partner, that part was only half alive. This, whatever this is, it's the first time I've felt whole. Jesse smiled. Me too. Claire returned late Friday night. She walked in, suitcase rolling behind her, coat over one arm, Bluetooth headset still stuck in her ear. I stood in the doorway as she paused, scanning my face with suspicion. You look different, she said flatly. I gave a small nod. We need to talk. It was the conversation I dreaded for years, not because I feared her anger, but because I feared I'd see disappointment in her eyes. I told her everything. No sugarcoating. No excuses. She listened. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just stood there. Still. Then finally, she said, I knew something was broken. I just didn't realize how far gone we were. I nodded. Neither did I, until I saw myself through someone else's eyes. She didn't ask who. I think she already knew. I'll move out by Monday, I said. You can keep the house. I'll take care of the divorce papers. Claire exhaled, long and tired. We stopped loving each other years ago. This isn't betrayal. It's mercy. She turned, walked up the stairs, and for the first time in our marriage, I didn't follow her. Jesse and I moved into a small 2-bedroom loft downtown. It wasn't much, exposed brick, creaky floorboards, no dishwasher. But it was ours. He set up his art desk by the window. I built a workbench in the corner for weekend DIY projects. We started leaving little sticky notes on the fridge. Things like buy milk or don't forget to sleep. But sometimes, it was just, I'm glad you're here. We kept things quiet. No announcements. No social media posts. Just the two of us, rebuilding from the ashes of what once was. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt. Of guilt. Of, what will people say? But every night, when Jesse curled up beside me, whispering something stupid like, your feet are freezing, I knew I'd made the right choice. Because I wasn't just living. I was loved. I once believed love had rules. Boundaries. Definitions drawn in ink. Husband. Wife. Family. Stepson. Stepfather. But love, real love, doesn't care about labels. It sneaks up on you in quiet glances. It grows in the cracks where routine used to live. It whispers, you're allowed to feel again. And when it finds you, really finds you, you don't run. You stay. Because some surprises change your life forever. Let me know the next title and I'll start the full outline or script for that as well.